It is Monday, March 2nd, 2020. It is 8 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, and so you know what time it is. It's time for a little bit of coin metal. There's a very educational get your ass kicked at Jiu-Jitsu Monday. I did not get to the early morning Jiu-Jitsu class. It was a shame. I'm very, very sorry to the people that do go to that class. I love going to it. Unfortunately, I haven't made it in the last couple weeks, but I have made it in on Monday in the evening. So, I'm not like missing out on classes. I'm just missing out on that class. And it's a shame too, because it's one of the very few classes during the week that is over an hour long. It's an hour and a half. And as a matter of fact, not Wednesday and Friday they've started doing a morning class, but they only do that for 1 hour. So anyway, very educational. We were working mostly from a top position today, and I thought that was good. It was a transition to getting into the triple threat, and I got to tell you, I felt like it was a really good focus because I had a misperception in the way I was doing it, and the instructor was able to correct it, and I feel like I made a little bit of progress on that. Whether or not I'll be yanking people up into triple threat anytime soon with any more ease remains to be seen. But I did manage to do pretty well during the positional sparring. We were doing this thing where we would start with our opponent like most of the way into the triple threat position, and trying to either trying to retain the position from the top position, and the opponent on the bottom was trying to get out. Well, I managed to escape at least 5 times, and he escaped twice. And so, I would expect that kind of differential. Number 1, I'm heavier than him. Number 2, I'm more experienced than him. And number 3, I'm a higher rank than him. So yes, of course, I would expect that, that would be the outcome. But nonetheless, I had a good time with it. And I felt like that is a position that I really do need to work a lot. I seem to panic out when I get into a dominant position, and I don't do anything like really to enhance it from there, except for maybe try and get it into a Kimura, an armbar, an Americana, maybe a choke. But as far as moving it up for that armbar and getting into that really secure higher guard position, it's not something that I've paid as much attention to, and I really feel like that is the big glitch in my top game, is that, and I need to really learn how to properly distribute my weight when I'm on top of my opponent, because it seems like I'm pretty easy to topple over to one side or the other. So either I have to widen my base or something like that. I don't know, but it's only going to come with practice, and so hopefully I'll be making more morning classes. I feel like it also improves your overall cardiovascular health and conditioning, is because it starts you off in the morning and gets your heart rate jacked up, and so your metabolism stays higher for the rest of the day. Now, of course, right after class, I feel like crashing out, and so, if I were in a position where I were like a professional or whatever, that, I had to be there at 8 a.m., there's no fucking way I'd be able to function for at least the first 2 hours of work. My brain would be mush from trying to keep oxygen coming to it while I was in jiu-jitsu. But yeah, so doing things from the top there, really trying to secure in the top position, and really taking a piece-by-piece perspective on transitioning into the triple threat position. And like I said, I felt that was really, really useful. We got really in-depth with it, and I was feeling the spot where my game could be glitching a little bit. with regard to staying on top, or at least I got a little bit of a view in it. I'm sure it's something that I'm going to need to work on quite a bit more. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw down with some music. And for some reason, I'm way down here on the bottom of the list, and body count's on the top. So I'm gonna have to rectify that business. And so, as far as where we're going to go for our first dance, I think this one's appropriate. Talk shit, get shot. First dance here on Coin Metal. And that was the little Faith No More with Zombie Eaters. And so, as far as what we're going to get into today, we talked a little bit about, I think we talked about this a little bit on Friday. I'm not 100% certain on that. But there's been a little bit of a kerfuffle when it comes to Steam. And so yeah, we're going to cover that first. And it's on Coindesk.com. Why Crypto Should Care About Justin Sun's Steam Drama. And this is authored on March 2nd, 2020 at 2100 UTC. Let's see who wrote this. Brady Dale. So yes, penis. Justin Sun has seized control of the Steemit blockchain with the apparent help of several prominent crypto exchanges. On the Steemit blog, which is newly owned by Sun, a post announced the new regime. Quote, for the next 4 to 6 weeks, the Steemit team will be using the voting rights to resume the order of the community while having an open channel for meeting community members and witnesses. However, as of this writing, users are telling us of app instability, and users on Steemit are signaling outright revolt. This is an archived version of... Let me see here. There's a archived version of the original post because Steemit has been unstable, and we'll check that out. In a delegated proof-of-stake system such as Steem, this Orwellian update is only made possible by enough of the network's native currencies, Steem, being thrown behind a new set of blockchain validators. In short, exchanges have staked Steem that they controlled, seemingly from user accounts, to, quote, vote for new leadership. The implications reach much further than just Steem or Tron, underlying the fundamental message of not your keys, not your crypto mantra. When users hold large amounts of their assets on exchanges, it gives those firms potentially decisive power over ostensibly decentralized networks, particularly when governance authority is tied to currency holdings. Wait, what? The turmoil began on February 14th when it was announced Sun, the controversial founder of the Tron blockchain, had acquired Steemit, a blogging site that owns a very large quantity of the Steem cryptocurrency. In response, Steem community leaders, the validators of the blockchain, initiated a soft fork on February 23rd that censored the stake of tokens held by Steemit, usually referred to in the community as the, quote, ninja mined stake, as CoinDesk previously reported. In other words, probably pre-mined. Quote, it's like the rich guys getting together and saying, let's show them who's the real boss. Roland Lamparty, a pseudonymous Dutch citizen who runs the Steem Witness and some major applications, told CoinDesk over a WhatsApp call. Leaders or validators on Steem are called witnesses, serving similar roles to Bitcoin's miners. All 20 of the new witnesses now leading the chain are accounts created in February 2020. Tron, Steemit, and Huobi have not replied to multiple requests for comment. While Binance has not responded directly to CoinDesk's inquiries, an enigmatic tweet from its CEO, Changpeng Zhao, addresses the issue. Quote, I was made aware of this upgrade/hard fork beforehand, and approved it. Projects do this all the time, and we are usually just in a supportive position, he wrote. Just message Justin Tron, no response yet. Assume he will respond publicly soon. There has been no update on the proposed town hall scheduled for March 6. Steam value has been generally down since the acquisition, trading at roughly 23 cents in US dollars before the news, and now around 17 cents according to CoinMarketCap. Steemit strikes back. The letter posted to the Steemit blog describes how Steemit had previously used its stake to support the community's development, and says Sun's Tron Foundation, quote, intends to use part of the Steemit stake for such executions. It then writes that the witness decision to soft fork created a need to reclaim the stake and vote in new witnesses to usher in new policies for a healthier ecosystem and community, also adding that the move, quote, may be deemed illegal and criminal. No, it's not. The post details several priorities for Steem going forward. It lists swaps between Steem and Tron, smart media tokens, a project the company has discussed for at least 2 years, feature parity with Reddit, and incentives for users to bring more people onto the platform. The new witnesses all now have overwhelming support in terms of Steem-denominated votes. However, the number of user accounts backing them is tiny, as can be seen in the voters' total column on that same page. I'm just checking the differences in the amount of Steem supporting new witnesses versus the number of accounts, or Steem, and it's just a chart there. Let's see, misblocks, whatever. Overnight, Binance, Huobi, and Poloniex, which is partially owned by Sun, staked tokens they controlled in order to vote for a new slate of witnesses. Presumably, the lion's share of these tokens are technically owned by users of those platforms, not the exchanges themselves. A tweet shows large accounts powering up tokens in advance of voting in the new slate of witnesses. Luke Stokes, a witness who has tracked exchange data for Steem for years, verified that the accounts were related to these exchanges. Then, the accounts enacted a new version of Steem software, version 22.5, which released the tokens controlled by Steemit. In large part, these tokens quickly flowed into exchange accounts, allowing them to increase their vote for Steem's new leaders. For context, these Steem holdings have been an issue within the community for some time. Land Party said that witnesses have previously discussed hard forks in order to remove the threat of a takeover by the company. Stokes broke down the mechanics of the takeover last night on YouTube. Yeah, you might want to check that out. Steem was created in part by Dan Larimer, who also co-created EOS, which has a very similar structure. Notably, EOS's creator, Block.1, also holds a potentially controlling portion of EOS tokens, but this has not been a major point of contention within the EOS community. What are users doing? Land Party told CoinDesk he was nervous about the Tron acquisition from the beginning. What alarmed him in particular, he said, was any discussion of token swaps and initial announcements of the Steem acquisition. As well as running a witness, Land Party organizes the annual Steem Fest, the gathering of the blockchain's enthusiasts. This is really a blockchain of people. This is a social chain, he said. You get a little bit tangled up in all of these people. It's not a gambling bot. which software version or different versions are signaling for. Let's see here. Interesting. The prior group of witnesses has begun signaling for an alternate software, version 22.4444, in protest. The multiple 4s are meant to have negative connotations, as 4 is not seen as a lucky number in China. Users have also been posting giant images of the numeral 4 in threads on Steemit. The community could still move to hard fork. If they did so, no doubt Steemit would continue to point to the current chain, 22.5, now controlled by Tron allies, but others might not. There are hundreds of apps built on Steam, including alternative blogging front ends, that could start reading a new chain rather than the one controlled by Tron. Jesus Christ. Blogging alternatives on Steam include eSteam, Busy.org, and SteamPeak, according to Stokes. These could all opt to redirect themselves to look at a new chain if the dispute goes far enough. On balance, LAN Party said leaders are keeping apps alive in order to not silence the community. However, he pulled an app he had built, Steam Wallet, from the iOS and Android app stores in protest. Exchange culpability. Quote, "This is a larger discussion and potentially historical moment for blockchains," Stokes told CoinDesk. Quote, "The mechanisms we use to protect these Byzantine fault-tolerant systems, how secure are they really? This is being tested right now." Somewhat ironically, LAN Party said part of the reason why it soft forked rather than hard forked was out of deference to the exchanges. A hard fork would have required exchanges to run new code so their users could withdraw tokens, and witnesses making the change felt this would be unfair to users. However, until the Steam software is changed, tokens will be locked up for much longer. The tokens are locked up to vote. It takes up to 14 weeks to, quote, power down, in Steam parlance, and make them exchangeable again. Of course, the new slate of witnesses now have the power to simply shorten this window. One user told CoinDesk he initiated a withdrawal of 500,000 Steam on Binance following last night's news, and it took 3 hours to arrive, shortly following the Binance CEO's announcement that it will, quote, likely remove the vote. Yeah. Let's see here. There were a couple links in here, and I want to get to one of them at least. Where is it? Potentially controlling EOS? No. Oh, where the hell is that? Slows large accounts? No. Overwhelming support? No. At least 2 years. Steam smart media tokens? No. Proposed town hall? No. Come on, where the hell is it? Enigmatic tweet? No. Initiate a soft fork? That might be it. Not your keys, not your crypting mantra. An archived version of the post. Let me see, I clicked on at least one of these here. Oh, here we go. And this is an archived version of the Steemit page this was on, but apparently it's become unstable since. Mysteriously, right? An open letter to the community, HF 22.5. This is on Steemit blog, or at least it was originally, and it was released by Steemit team. An open letter to the community. On February 22nd, 2020, Steam witnesses launched Hardfork 22.2 with the sole intent to freeze the original stakes owned by Steemit.inc. Originally, as the core development team behind Steam blockchain and key contributor to the ecosystem, Steemit used their stake for continued development of the Steam blockchain, onboarding users, and not voting for witnesses. The Tron Foundation is committed to add value and grow the Steam ecosystem and intends to use part of the Steemit stake for such executions. With that in mind, on February 13th, both Tron and Steemit planned to meet to discuss the future roadmap with respect of the Steemit community. Unfortunately, the witnesses' decision created a need to reclaim the stake and vote in new witnesses to usher in new policies for a healthier ecosystem and community. Sounds like a unilateral coup d'etat to me, but Soft Fork 22.2 was maliciously structured, intending to freeze a handful of very targeted accounts and taking away their rights and possession to their owned asset, and may be deemed illegal and criminal. The group behind this could essentially do this kind of attack to any Steam community member on any terms they want. They even threaten to hard fork and nullify all existing Steam tokens, putting every good Steam holder, developer, and community interest at danger. This is very much against every aspect of the original purpose of decentralization and the core value of the Steam blockchain and community. We can't let it happen. On March 2nd, 2020, Steam regained the staked accounts so as to course-correct the hostile behavior led by a small group of people and resume the order of the community. Commitment to the community. The Steam blockchain will not be abandoned or merged to Tron unless the community decides so. For the next 4 to 6 weeks, Steemit team will be using the voting rights to resume the order of the community while having an open channel for meeting community members and witnesses. The goal is to protect the Steam blockchain from bad actors, add transparency, and receive community suggestions and advice. After the 4 to 6 week period, the Steemit team will give the governance back to the community when it's back in order and mutual agreement. Product roadmap. The Steam team had a very productive and exciting conversation with Tron on the future roadmap, and we can't wait to share this with everyone. The following features are what we will be focusing on. Maintain the Steam blockchain running in parallel with Tron, launch smart media tokens, launch cross-chain atomic swaps, improve overall Steemit.com user experience and onboard more users. Smart media tokens, SMTs. SMTs are on our public testnet. We have GitHub testing issues created that once completed will ensure confidence in the release. Alongside the SMT release is the SMT Wizard, a simple front end for creating SMTs and client libraries. Client library work is mostly done except for small exchanges or small changes being made to the protocol during testing, and it's awaiting testing. Cross-chain atomic swaps. CCAS will use a combination of hashed time lock contracts, HTLCs, and header-only verification to seamlessly move tokens, Steem, TRC20s, and SMTs between Tron and Steam. Steemit.com user experience improvements. Steemit.com is an opportunity to onboard massive numbers of users into our ecosystem through a social network, viral media model, Now with Tron's ecosystem and resources, this goal is more achievable than ever. We're on target for feature parity with Reddit.com. With Communities core launched, we are very close to this goal. The remaining tasks are around onboarding, including an invite system for new accounts and optimizing content discovery. Specifically, our primary goal is to emphasize the organic and sustainable models for growth that Steemit.com enables. We plan on doing this by, number 1, lowering the barriers of entry by streamlining the sign-up and first-use experience on Steemit.com and on the Steem blockchain. Number 2, contributing to the quality and authenticity of the user base by implementing an invite/referral sign-up system. Number 3, enhancing the quality of our user experience on Steemit.com by removing ads, optimizing the front page, making the reward system easy to use through browser extensions, and integrating the wallet with the main site, and enhancing the mobile experience. I don't think that's enough. And as a matter of fact, I think this latest move in governance is probably signaling some bad stuff to the community at large. It seems like there's other DPoS projects out there that have had issues, and I expect that they will continue. It's simply that you cannot stack that many users on top of a system with so few validators and expect to have positive results at least. Continuing on, more rewards to witnesses. Community is the core to the Steem ecosystem, and witnesses should earn rewards accordingly given how important their roles are. We will come up with a plan to reward witnesses' privileges in Steemit, like staking rewards. More users. Tron is known for its thriving ecosystem. No, actually, they're known for buying other people's communities and other people's ecosystems and trying to make them their own. And now Steemit has access to Tron's active 15 million user community, a distribution network of over 600 million DAU, while meanwhile leveraging Tron's powerful marketing resources as well as some top industry leaders. More development. More development support will be provided. Not only do we have access to more engineer support, but also we can run more hackathons and devote more capital to support the development of community projects. That's good if you're focusing the vast majority of your resources to exactly those ends. Continuing on. More liquidity. We'll be learning a lot from Tron's team on how to build a healthy exchange relationship, and we'll be having more conversations with exchanges to learn the best way to get listed and have more trading pairs. A brighter future. Steem and the Steem community is one of a kind within the current blockchain landscape. It had its own library, its own history, but now with Tron's resources and ecosystem behind it, it's time to course correct and build a healthier and thriving ecosystem around this dynamic community. This will be nothing but an exciting future. Yeah, okay. Let's see what some of the responses are. Let's see here. Roland P. says, do you understand this is exactly what we wanted to prevent? With this move, you, quote, number 1, literally killed Steem. Number 2, used customer funds, called your friends at exchanges, and without customer knowing, used funds residing on exchanges to power up and vote. And 3, centralized the Steem chain. Preventing this is exactly why Softfork 22.2 was implemented in the first place, but how stupid were we to not include befriended exchanges? We discussed it, but we could not believe Crypto World would be so stupid. Apparently exchanges pick a side, Please understand you have killed a wonderful community of 4 years, real people from all over the world, not bots or gambling apps. Maybe your chain will continue, but it will be an empty shell. Happy pumping. Goddamn right. He's been voted up $8.14. Nice. And a response to that is, Justin Sum loves bots and gambling dapps, so he can't understand our feeling. And that was Mama Novasum. Yeah, damn right. And Joy the Wanderer says, but how stupid were we to not include befriended exchanges? The response was, because it's not officially incorporated accounts. Soft fork was soft as fuck. Yeah, damn Skippy. A Nomad Soul says, so basically you hostile take over Steam's governance, claiming it's because you're striving for decentralization, and yet you do it by centralizing governance by voting the top 20 witnesses with one superpowered up amount. But screw the 4 years and thousands of witness votes from the community that's been here every day for years, right? Goddamn right. Lord Butterfly responds, and the fucking exchanges used customer funds. It's beyond unethical. That aspect of it, I would say, is absolutely correct. An exchange should have absolutely no ability to use the voting power of your coins, and especially not without asking you, and especially not without asking you what your fucking vote is. Anyway, continuing on. Frederica says, if it has been your intent all along to use Steam at stake for further Steam blockchain and community development, according to what has been promised to the investors and users who have stayed here for 4 years, then why not just commit it to a trustless way? This was the absolute worst way to build trust with the community going forward. A sad day for decentralization. Actually, it's just a sad day for Steam and their community. And I happen to be in agreement with you there, but these people are going to have to be looking to go to another project, especially if they don't like the way that Tron does business. Continuing on here, Studkev says, you're the only bad actor here. You've just centralized a blockchain using exchanges to make a hostile takeover. Absolutely correct. But to that end, here's the other side of it, Kev, and you got to keep this in mind, is that there are millions of users out there. They're not necessarily the same people that are pulling this shit. They're not necessarily people that are going to be benefiting from this shit. So they have absolutely no interest in staying with this version of the blockchain where it's been centralized to fuck. So if they really want to fucking show what crypto is all about, they would fire up some fucking hardware, get together on some social media or some sort of chat application, and figure out how to hash together a fucking Genesis block or start the project over again with a different set of validators. This is only first strike on this shit. At some point or another, they are going to be coming down on quote-unquote validators because they can. Where they're going to have difficulty is miners, because miners are an ad hoc participant to the network. They can come on, they can go off at their will. And there's no law that's going to be able to change that. But anyway, with regard to validators, and the only reason there will be any kind of regulation on validators is exactly this. So, when it comes to something like this, the last thing you need to be doing is going to mommy and daddy, your government, and saying, fix this for us, help us out, we don't have any recourse. That's bullshit. You knew when you signed up that there was no protection from mommy or daddy. And creating a pretext for them to come in will only create a pretext for them to poke their nose in and think that they have something to say about everything else too. And that doesn't help anybody. And besides that, I think they'll just laugh at you anyway, but that's beside the point. I think that some regulators have spouted their mouth off and said stuff that is not only not enforceable by law, but it's not a crime, not a criminal activity. And they are not in the position to be writing laws. They are to be listening to laws. They are to be following and complying with laws. Not telling you what the new laws are. Because, again, that's not their position. Anyway, let me get a little bit further into this. Here we go. Lord Butterfly says, "You fucking used exchanges to take over the chain. Are you retarded? This has to be illegal somehow, you commie pieces of shit." Yes, it does have to be illegal somehow. But this is the reality of it, and you have to listen right here. And this is by Jace KW. He says, "Good luck. You just lost the whole community, the most valuable thing here." That's absolutely correct, sir. Or ma'am, I don't know who, and I don't really care. Absolutely correct. The community makes these coins worth anything. No community, no value. Capiche? You make decisions that are too toxic to your community, you will lose them to other competitors, or they will fork you. If you represent too small a percentage of the actual hashing power out there, they'll just fucking fuck you. Bye-bye. And I expect that this is actually going to happen with the few DPoS projects that are worth a shit. And I don't know that Steam is actually one of them, especially now that Tron owns them. But it's the truth, though, that at any point, the community can fork a coin and keep on going their way while the exchange goes on another way. You know, and the network will only stay viable as long as there's actually enough miners on it. But as soon as it becomes more valuable to attack it than to play by the rules, what I expect to see on Steam is a drop in the actual potential validators in the pool. And that this is assuming they aren't able to vote themselves back in full control. I think they are able to, but yeah, I think if they fail to do so, and these validators that are just validating for the exchanges, if they happen to retain control or dominant stake on the Steemit network, I think that people will just fork off of it. That whatever potential validators there are out there will get together and say, you know what, we're going to validate our own chain now, and fuck these guys. We're going home. And then, of course, Steam will fall to being nothing. Exchanges will pick up the alternative coin instead. They'll drop the support for Steam, and everybody will go on their casual, merry way. But yeah. Let's see here. Here we go. HoloZOR says this is a response to more rewards to witnesses. Community is the core to Steam ecosystem, and witnesses should earn rewards accordingly, given how important their roles are. We will come up with a plan to reward witnesses' privileges in Steemit, like staking rewards. And HoloZor says, but a platform like this is nothing without content. Do you surely believe that the witnesses need to be rewarded more heavily? Do people use Reddit, Instagram, and Facebook to see drama about Reddit, Instagram, and Facebook? No, they go there to follow and discuss things that they are interested in. We need less content about Steam and more rewards for dedicated content creators and people who grow communities. Yeah, absolutely. Let's see here. Well, I think that's about enough on this article. These networks, these projects, they're only as powerful as their interest base. If the interest base isn't big enough and the incentive is big enough, then people will attack it, and will attack it on the cheap. And I really think the consolidations that we're starting to see in crypto are just, they're low-hanging fruit. They had corporate involvement to begin with. They had a corporate entity behind them or as them, and it's questionable whether or not they're actually securities. The rules of finance didn't go away with this stuff, and the rules of cryptocurrencies did not go away either. And there are certain things that, while I will say that I don't believe there are actually any quote-unquote experts in this space, I think there are people that have had enough time to figure out why coins have failed, or at least observe why coins have failed, and where they can come back to us and say, this is why the coin failed. Among those reasons why we've seen coins fail is you get a developer core that is unresponsive to their community at large, while being entirely self-interested with their own priorities. And if it turns out that they're making decisions that are noxious to a high enough degree of numbers out there, members out there in the community, the members will simply reject it. They'll fork it off and they'll reject it. And I don't believe that Stellar is any different. Or Steam it, rather. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. And I've been dying to play some Suicidal. And, let me see here. There's a song somebody had posted. And I'm trying to find it here. Here it is. You Can't Bring Me Down, Suicidal Tendencies, here on Coin Metal. And that was Overkill with Come Heavy. And so, next up, I wanted to dig a little bit further into this. And, yeah. It seems this has already had some significant fallout. And this is on the Bitcoinist. It might actually be on another page. We'll find out here in a moment. Steam goes down after major exchanges hijack consensus mechanism. And this is by Trevor Smith, March 2nd, 2020 at 1600. Let's see here. In a move that has both stunned and infuriated the Steam community, major crypto exchanges have used the voting power of their held tokens to restructure the platform's consensus algorithm. The network has now gone down in a move that may be tied to Justin Sun's acquisition of Steemit late last month, and the community's attempt to limit his power. By purchasing Steemit, Justin Sun gained control of a sizable share of Steam's consensus voting weight. This fact is due to the platform's delegated proof-of-stake architecture, and Steemit being by far the most active element of the network. Fearing Sun's potential to cause mayhem, last week, the Steam team initiated a soft fork that eliminated Steemit's influence. Now, in what may be a retaliatory act, several centralized exchanges have used their own voting influence to promote Steemit-affiliated witnesses to the coveted top 20 spots. It is these witnesses that produce blocks within the platform. If the evidence rings true, Steemit and thus Justin Sun has established centralized control over Steam. Quote, waking up to find that Justin Sun has taken over the Steam blockchain in a hostile manner by using 84 million Steam from Binance and Huobi as well as his own exchange to vote in their own BPs and fork the chain. CZ Binance, you support this? Tron decentralized the web. And that was by Justine, March 2nd, 2020. The reason why the exchanges have taken this act remains unclear, yet Sun now stands accused of bribing them. In recent hours, the Steam network has ceased to function, opening the door to many questions as to what the real plan behind this act may be. It's demonstrating that the attack surface is exploitable. That's what it's showing you, that a fucking utter coup d'etat can be taken over your fucking project with this DPoS shit. Vitalik Buterin tweeted about this incident, noting the clear indication of collusion. Quote, apparently Steam DPoS got taken over by big exchanges voting with depositors' funds. Can anyone confirm and or provide details? You know what, Vitalik? You would think that anybody who could do it would be you. Anyway, it seems like the first big instance of a, quote, de facto bribe attack on a coin voting, the bribe being execs giving holders convenience and taking their votes. Vitalik Buterin. Not surprisingly, Steam advocates are furious. One has posted a video explaining the damage this move has done to the platform. Quote, your stake in Steam on centralized exchanges was just used to take over the Steam blockchain. Luke Stokes, March 2nd, 2020. Perhaps the most puzzling is the fact that if Sun is behind the present attack on the Steam network, he would be acting against his own self-interest. The present network failure represents a significant blow to Steam's credibility as a trustworthy blockchain platform. In fact, it damages the very concept of DPoS as a reliable architecture for decentralized consensus. Issue highlights the threat of centralized exchanges. Because DPoS architecture gives voting weight to token holders, centralized exchanges generally hold a tremendous amount of influence over these platforms. Blockchain experts have warned that this arrangement opens the door for collusion and centralization, which may be the present case with Steam. The solution to this problem is for holders of DPoS coins to keep them in personal wallets rather than on exchanges. Unfortunately, far too many crypto investors fail to do so. Perhaps Steam's present situation may prompt more to heed this simple and important advice moving forward. What do you make of the whole Steam hostile takeover of the situation? Add your thoughts below. Let's see if there's any comments on this. Oh, there's 7. Binance says, to celebrate the successful launch of the Ethereum 2.0 network, we have committed a total of 10,000 Ethereum giveaway to the fans of Ethereum around the world. Oh, wonderful. I wonder if that's really the Binance team. Sonics, and that's how you get regulated? Well, fucking done, bruv, twat. Yeah, I think you're right. Sonic says, sure, we got to be talking about some kind of inside trading crap as well. Suck a dick, JS. Get what you deserve, bruv. I'm sure smart for ass dumb shit. Yeah, okay. Sonics keeps plaguing this. Here we go. Mulab Habib says, Binance, Twitter, Coinbase, BSV, BCH, Bybit, etc. are owned by certain individuals. Yeah, you know, this risk exists in crypto, that exchanges, centralized exchanges, would become whoa. Ooh, we might have to check that one too. We might be seeing where these exchanges can be threatening, where they're using your funds not necessarily in your best interest. You know, they're using the voting weight of your tokens to do things like vote themselves validator positions, you know, so that they're able to say to the rest of the network, this is not only how we're going to vote, this is also how we are going to function. And I think that's a very dangerous position to be putting people in. But anyway, I found this other one here, and I think this is a threat too, and it's along the same lines, that the exchanges themselves, because they're willing to do things like trade quote-unquote stable coins with unverified cash reserves on their exchanges and be exchanged for coins that people actually put hardware, electricity, and bandwidth to mining and maintaining. And I think that we are going to see a major adjustment with regard to altcoins, because I do see that there's going to be some issues with Bitcoin that cause people to migrate their average everyday transactions to altcoins that can not only handle the transaction load, but are cheap enough to do so with. Anyway, this is on the Bitcoinist.com, and again, this could be an aggregated article, so we may be migrating. Anyway, is the Bitcoin network becoming unsustainable? And this is by Luke Whelan, and it was authored March 2nd, 2020 at 3. And so yes, penis. The electricity used to power the Bitcoin network is to power the Czech Republic more than once over. New figures by a PwC researchers have shown that the Bitcoin network uses more electricity to keep it running than the Czech Republic, a European country with a population of over 10.5 million people. I bet you there's something off about that. The process of Bitcoin mining uses 77.78 terawatt hours per year. Mining is the computing process that is used to add a new group of transactions, blocks, to the global publicly visible ledger, the blockchain, which displays all historical transactions. To put this into a more relatable context, each individual transaction uses the equivalent of 2 months' worth of electrical consumption in an average British household. Perhaps most disappointing for Bitcoin advocates is the fact that the carbon footprint of all computers used to mine Bitcoin is currently the same as the carbon footprint created by 780,650 Visa transactions. The problem has become amplified over recent months because the recent bullish conditions and the high demand for Bitcoin transactions resulting from this. Where does all the energy from Bitcoin mining go? During the mining process, a super custom made computers, not super custom made computing devices called ASICs, are programmed to endlessly compute mathematical equations. By completing these complex equations, they are able to add a block of transactions onto the ledger, known as the blockchain. However, people just like you and me could be running those fucking ASICs just as easily as somebody in fucking China. Continuing on. Together, all of the computers used to try and figure out the answer to these hyper-complex equations are very inefficient. Not so at all. As a matter of fact, I'm going to stop reading right there and comment on this because I think this is a very salient point. That's fucking bullshit. When any fucking device, and I don't give a fuck what it is. It could be your desktop, it could be your laptop, it could be your goddamn Xbox. Any device that you are currently owning has experienced significant efficiency upgrades over the last 5 years due specifically to things found out in mining. Not just on the production end, but on the performance end, where people are fucking overclocking their CPUs and their GPUs for damn near years on end with very, very little, if any, downtime. And it's been a testament to pushing the extremes of computing. And it has bumped us up several iterations in diameter measurements on our circuitry in all of our devices. Every single device around you, every year since about, I would say, 2012, has been impacted by the demand for mining hardware. Everything has gotten cooler, it has gotten smaller, it has gotten faster, it has gotten more efficient because of people pushing their ASICs and their GPUs and their CPUs as hard as they possibly can, and their FPGAs, as hard as they can for months, years on end. And so, yeah, I think that idea that it's inefficient, fuck you, it's not inefficient. If anything, it is driving, it is incentivizing efficiency. Bitcoin mining is one of the very few things on this planet that does. I mean, the truth be known, if the average video card were introduced to somebody in, say, the year 2000, somebody who was working on VR or AR even, if you were to hand them that GPU, the kind of shit that they could get it to do would just blow your fucking mind. But we're being held back by it, I think, because people just aren't prepared for that kind of computing yet. But the hardware is capable of it. And again, that iterative increase in performance, that's at least partially mining-centric. You know, that there have been improvements, iterative improvements in hardware. And again, these things can be directly attributed to what has been learned in manufacturing hardware for mining and the performance of that hardware in the wild. Continuing on. Each computer requires a huge electrical input and has an average lifetime of just over 1.5 years. That's not necessarily true. That's a profitable lifetime for 1.5 years, and that all depends on the rest of the network. You know, if there's been a significant decline in the amount of hash power being dedicated to it, then the difficulty goes down, and all of a sudden the S9s or whatever, or the S7s or even S5s that you've had stashed away in your closet are suddenly profitable to mine with again. Continuing on. As a result, Bitcoin also quickly produces a large amount of waste. This waste isn't even recyclable or reusable. That's also bullshit too. Bitcoin currently produces as much electronic waste than Luxembourg, 10.71 kilotons to be exact. I wonder where they got that from. To make the case for Bitcoin's sustainability worse, only 2% of devices used will ever calculate the equations. This means that 98% are arguably just calculating pointless equations before being thrown away as waste just over 1.5 years. After just 1.5 years. Alternatively, the computer companies and banking institutions used to process and maintain the current financial ledgers are all, quote, useful and thrown away less often, as they don't require the power to work endlessly through difficult equations. Yeah, and their markets are also on a 5-day, 8 a.m. through 4 p.m. business cycle, and we just... But that's not good enough. Are there any solutions? Some blockchain professionals have suggested that this is an infrastructure problem in the mining community. I don't. Anton Sholopanov, managing director of Materium, suggests that the heat generated by the Bitcoin ASICs to heat up dwellings. He recommends transporting mining devices to areas in winter to heat up buildings. Others have suggested that as Layer 2 Bitcoin programs develop, the efficiency of the network will increase. No, that's a bunch of bullshit. Layer 2 changes are designed to add secondary frameworks to the Bitcoin protocol. For example, the Lightning Network was designed to speed up transactions by pulling off-chain transfers as part of a private payment channel. Yeah, introducing a factor of trust that didn't previously exist, and also a large, centralized, licensed, regulated KYC-AML'd entity will be doing that for you. A third party will be doing that for you. So again, reintroducing censorship in your currency. All that progress. Like setting up a tab, the Lightning Network prevents people from a liquidity pool having to do multiple transactions that need to be verified by high energy consuming miners. Yeah, this is a bunch of bullshit. Let's see what the responses are on this, if there are any. 2 comments. Okay. Here we go. Bill Perez says, "Oh good, more ill-informed drivel. Yeah, Bitcoin would be much better if we could just get rid of all of that pesky proof of work." Facepalm. Goddamn right. Robert Williams says, "Gosh, this is all a bit pessimistic. I'd like to know how much it costs to operate USD, GBP, EUR currencies, along with the extra cost of printing more for quantitative easing. 780,650 Visa transactions sounds like not very many. But to me, by contrast, despite the doom and gloom spin, this article fills me with optimism. Fuck yes." Yes, because we are achieving a level of transparency and a level of efficiency. You know, the thing that a lot of these articles leave out is the cost of not only the maintenance of the systems that this all runs on, with regard to US dollars and other fiat currencies. Not only that, but also the transfer of physical notes, certificates, and coins. This happens. And there's energy involved in that. It takes energy. It costs money to hire people to transfer the coins from your vault after you've minted them, which again takes energy, and puts them in the vehicle and then transfers them several hundred miles potentially to the bank that they're being received at. And again, more transferring the coins to the bank and the papers to the bank and the certificate to the bank. Point being is there's little bits of energy there that don't seem like a whole lot, but when you add them cumulatively over an entire nation, or even if you want to go international with it, which you absolutely should, considering that you're trying to contrast it versus the Bitcoin network. Okay? And when you look at things like just the fact that there's a significant amount of loss on the SWIFT network. I read about a report a while ago, it's probably a year, maybe 2 years ago on this show, about where the SWIFT network like fucks up like 30% of all the transactions that happen on it. And really, in reality, nothing fails 30% of the time without it being designed to do that. I mean, either that or there's just so much regulatory cruft and bullshit in there that's where your loss is occurring. But there are parts of the SWIFT network that get very, very dodgy service, have service interruptions all the fucking time. However, when you contrast that with Bitcoin, with the level of energy that's being dedicated to it versus the SWIFT system or any other international or just a corporate network like Visa or MasterCard, you'll find that if you take into account all costs, and we're talking about fraud, we're talking about service disruptions, we would find that Bitcoin is a far more efficient network and a far more reliable network. I mean, people completely underestimate what we're achieving with all of that hashing power. When you're talking about what's backing Bitcoin, that's exactly what you're fucking talking about. It takes all of that electricity, it takes all of that hardware, it takes all of that bandwidth to support this fucking network. If you want a stake of that, fire up some fucking hardware, hook it up to a mining pool, and fucking get going, kid. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down into some music. Coming near the end here. And there was a whole bunch of other stuff I wanted to get into, honestly. Let me see if I can squeeze at least one more in. And we've been talking about issues with regard to interest and governance. where we're already seeing in these supposedly decentralized systems, and we're seeing exactly how centralized they are, or at least how centralized the active interest in them is. And that's really the danger there, is that the big lever that can be used to alter the coin dramatically has been handed to a very tiny number of people. As a matter of fact, I think just Tron, the guy that runs Tron. And that's a huge dependency that I hope they fucking divest themselves of very quickly. But it's all of this in mind, this idea of disinterested parties or not as interested parties determining governing aspects of a coin or a project. We're seeing it now in the wild with Steemit and IOTA and other projects. But just imagine if we were talking about a CBDC. Okay, now we're not talking about something worth a couple $100 million. Now we're talking about something worth several $1 trillion. And so, considering what we're experiencing with these limited governance models with distributed proof of stake, where you've got this selection methodology for who you pick as your validators, and you've got a limited number of validators and so on and so forth. Okay, now extend that out to a national fiat currency. Can you imagine the level of disruption we're talking about here? Bitcoin itself would look like the most efficient fucking payment network on the planet when people are considering the things like lost costs. Just because you couldn't do business right then because the network was down, or there was some major rollback on the network and you didn't really have the coins that you thought you had. Lost opportunities on the marketplace. I mean, really, we're talking about catastrophic events. And again, I'm being a little doomsaying here, but really, we have to entertain these worst case scenarios because we're seeing them play out. If we didn't have any viable examples that we could point to and say, yeah, this is a fucking danger, we should watch out for that shit, then yeah, I'd be barking into the wind. But we're seeing it happen right now. And so layer on top of that, the idea that there's going to be this coin and it's going to be determining the standards for other coins. Anyway, continuing, I want to get into this article here. It's on news.bitcoin.com. A sea change to crypto hits America again. A sea change is coming to cryptocurrency in America. It is likely to hit in two separate waves: a central bank digital currency and draconian regulation that shuts down free market activities, including development. The wave of a central bank digital currency. Robert Wenzel of the Economic Policy Journal has a warning, quote, "A U.S. Federal Reserve created digital coin could be one of the most dangerous steps ever taken by a government agency. It would put in the hands of the government the potential to create a digital currency with the ability to track all transactions in an economy and prohibit transactions for any reason. In terms of future individual freedom, this would be a nightmare." Not really. If recent statements by American lawmakers and bureaucrats are any indication, however, state-issued crypto seems to be on its way. A shift in attitude on CBDCs is in the air. Consider Federal Reserve Governor Lael Brainerd. In May 2018, she stated, quote, "There is no compelling demonstrated need for a Fed-issued digital currency." While acknowledging the efficiency and low cost of blockchain transfers, Brainerd presented a familiar... Hold on a second. We just read a fucking article bitching about the inefficiency of Bitcoin. Here we go. Brainerd saying, while acknowledging the efficiency and low cost of blockchain transfers, Brainerd presented a familiar checklist of objections to digital currencies. Okay, but flipping back to what we just read. The motherfucker was bitching about how it's not all that efficient, and yet a member of the Fed here A Federal Reserve governor is acknowledging the efficiency and low cost of blockchain transfer. See the dichotomy going on here? Oh yeah, it's inefficient for you to do it, even though every demonstration of it actually working right is products of you actually doing it. Give me a fucking break. These fucking people are high. Continuing on. Let's see. Brainerd presented a familiar checklist of objections to digital currencies. They were too volatile to be utilized as money. Their anonymity protected crimes like money laundering and sex trafficking. They eluded regulation. Yeah, the only objection is we don't control it. That's not a viable objection, kid. Not anymore. You don't get to determine that for the rest of the financial economy out there. Thankfully. Continuing on. Then Brainerd added what may have been the fundamental reason for dismissing a CBDC. At the beginning of 2018, digital currencies were so small a part of the financial system that they posed no stability risk. They did not threaten the monetary status quo, or at least Brainerd did not perceive the threat. Actually, it's not really a threat, it's just a competition. In February 2020, her tune differed. The Fed is conducting research and experimentation related to distributed ledger technologies and their potential use case for digital currencies, including the potential for a CBDC. The main public argument for a CBDC is a perceived need to stabilize crypto by pegging it to traditional fiat, which is assumed to be less volatile. Actually, that's a bunch of bullshit. The nightmare of which Wenzel warned already has a name, FedCoin. Yeah, I think I actually talked about that back in like 2017. If people actually listen to this show more, they probably wouldn't have bothered to even write this article or even assume they could do a CBDC. Continuing on. What changed between May 2018 and February 2020? Crypto surged in popularity and price, while central banks and their fiats continued a slow implosion. Several nations, including America's financial nemesis China, announced an intention to issue e-currencies. Quote, "We are collaborating with other central banks as we advance our understanding of central bank digital currencies," Brainerd explained, all the while, quote, "making sure we are at the frontier of both research and policy development." Translation, the U.S. does not want to be left behind. Neither will it eat Facebook's dust. Brainerd claimed that Facebook's digital currency Libra, which emerged last year, imparted urgency to the conversation. Digital currency was becoming a large enough part of the financial system for agencies like the Internal Revenue Service and Federal Reserve and Treasury Department to notice. Yeah, in other words, they've just figured out that they've got competition. A wave of draconian regulation. The regulation attack is surging, and it will extend far beyond the current licensing of exchanges and make them function in conformity with state law. The IRS has stepped up both crypto prosecutions and created new rules. In this article, IRS explains what crypto owners must know to file taxes this year. Kevin Helms observed among the changes in the 2019 Form 1040, the main U.S. tax form, is the addition of an inquiry regarding the acquisition or disposition of any virtual currency. The agency explained, the new crypto question appears on Form 1040 Schedule 1 entitled Additional Income and Adjustments to Income. This is Prelude. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin recently revealed that the department's Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, FinCEN, was preparing significant new requirements in order to provide transparency to crypto in a quest to prevent crimes such as tax avoidance. Here, transparency is a synonym for state surveillance. Quote, "We want to make sure that technology moves forward," Mnuchin continued, "but We want to make sure that cryptocurrencies aren't used for the equivalent of secret Swiss number bank accounts. He added that FinCEN and the Treasury Department are spending a lot of time on this. The Department of Justice is even more blunt, declaring Bitcoin mixing to be, quote, a crime in and of itself. Yahoo Finance's article, U.S. DOJ calls Bitcoin mixing a crime and arrest of software developer, indicated how seriously the DOJ takes this alleged crime. Larry Harmon was arrested earlier this week for allegedly participating in a money laundering conspiracy worth over $300 million in cryptocurrency involving darknet marketplace Alphabay. However, the family of the Coin Ninja CEO claims he was never involved with Alphabay. Harmon's case raises pressing questions about developer liability in the crypto industry. The mere development of tools has been criminalized. No, they actually can't do that. And I would bet anything, if this case were actually brought to court, shit would get thrown out. Continuing, the two waves flood together. As yet, Mnuchin has not supported a CBDC. He merely echoes President Trump's loud concern that crypto is being used by bad actors and the abuses must be reined in by careful state monitoring. The easiest way for this to be done is to create some form of CBDC on a blockchain protocol that the state controls. However, the state's pattern in monetary matters can be judged by how it handled private competition to the money it has issued in the past. Whatever the politicians say now, the same pattern is likely to hold with crypto as soon as it becomes pragmatically possible. First, state money is issued through a central bank, and free market competitors are controlled by regulation. Quote, to start with, I suspect it's going to be a parallel currency, the investment guru Doug Casey explained, perhaps usable just within the U.S., which, in effect, would be a form of foreign exchange controls even more effective than the inability of Americans to open up foreign bank and brokerage accounts today. I think it's a near certainty that they're going to do something like this, and soon. Second, the state will attempt to establish a monopoly by criminalizing the ownership of free market crypto and perhaps mandating the ownership of state issue. One manner in which a fiat has been historically mandated is by making taxes or other state fees payable only in that form of money. Establishing a CBDC may be irresistible to Trump, not only as a way to stay competitive with rival monetary powers, but also because the extreme political power it offers. A CBDC would serve the state in at least two ways. By controlling the design of the FedCoin's blockchain and in terms of use, the state can strip away encryption and anonymity so that every transaction is identifiable. Every user can be taxed. Every coin can be confiscated. The threat of confiscation or being shut out of the financial system is a means to impose social control. The CBDC eases people into a cashless society. States dislike cash because it offers anonymity that blocks their ability to tax and control. If only the CBDC were permitted, however, extra taxes could be levied and social control asserted. If the state wanted to prevent someone from traveling, for example, it could block the person's ability to buy a plane ticket or ammunition for a gun. As usual, the freedom and prosperity of individuals will be stolen in the name of a noble cause, fighting sex traffic or child pornography. In reality, it will be done to empower the state. The title of an Economic Frontier Foundation article stated, in foreshadowing cryptocurrency regulations, U.S. Treasury Secretary prioritizes law enforcement concerns. Yeah, fuck the rest of the economy, just, as long as we can enforce our laws. The wording of the coming regulations and probable Fed coin are not yet known. Their purpose is clear, however. The state wants to convert cryptocurrency into a form of state fiat and a technology of financial surveillance. The latter can reveal far more than economic transactions. As the FF observed, they can point to everything from your friend network to your sexual interests to your political ambitions. State-controlled e-currency means state-controlled individuals. Yeah, I believe that. Well, let's see if there's any comments on this thing. Ooh, there's one. Let's see here. 444344443 says, Wendy McElroy, after all your research, do you think the governments are just getting frustrated that they find it hard to control cryptocurrency? Yeah, I really think that is the point of it. Is that we are seeing a demonstration of control points, and I think that in the longer term, we're going to see the control point of exchanges being exerted on more heavily. And when we do, we're also going to see a migration in the cryptosphere to a more decentralized approach to both storage of coins and exchange of them for one another and goods and services. I think that if you look at this for a longer term, I think that what we're going to find is that the CBDC will have its economy, and then the 5,000 or so other cryptocurrencies out there will have their own economy. And that it will develop in a relatively short period of time, and it will have an interface directly to the internet, no matter how they decide to try and get rid of that. And that this shit will just continue on because it's within enough people's interest for it to continue on. And I think in the longer term, we're going to see, because enough of the desirable things available in an economy, means of self-defense, means of self-intoxication, that because these things are desirable and because people want them, they will find a way to get them. And if cryptocurrencies that aren't on exchanges and aren't quote-unquote legal, as defined by their government, the government in question, the government of the place they live, that people will use cryptocurrencies specifically to buy these things. And as they demonstrate increased utility for that end, new markets are going to be developing, where people are going to be growing crops and shit indoors and exchanging them amongst one another with cryptocurrencies as their medium of exchange, completely voiding out the state control of what they consume, when they consume it, and how much they pay for it. This is the reality that is possible, and because it is possible and because it is relatively cheap by comparison to how we're handling cryptocurrencies right now, I believe it will happen. Our compliance is only bought with the limited amount of PETA that it provides. As soon as the PETA becomes more costly to us in a variety of ways than other options available, we are going to devoid ourselves of our participation in fiat currencies or the systems that they're contained within or used within. This is the true threat that CBDCs face and government-issued coins face, is that we have other options. And people will endure a limited amount of shit or pay a little bit of a premium to get what they really want out of their coin. And if they can get it, and I believe as cheaply as a cryptocurrency has been made to be possible, at least one significant enough to support your commerce, I think with the ease that has been presented to us, that's been made possible, that we're going to see exactly that. We are going to see people constructing coins that they can be running on consumer-grade hardware We're going to be seeing people figure out a way to backwards compatible their Xboxes and make them into a mining network. It will happen. We have not seen the end to the goofery here. Because the fact of the matter is this shit is just getting more efficient. And is getting more powerful. All the time. It's not stopped. They're planning this shit through 2029 at least. I read about that. Where they were talking about releasing chipsets down to 1.5 nanometers by 2029. Personally, I expect for that iteration increase to happen a lot quicker than that, probably by 2027. But what we're going to see on the other side of it, with regard to how these iterative upgrades affect everything else that we own, like everything else that's got a CPU, a GPU, or an A6 chip in, I think it's going to be profound. And with those increases in potential being extended to the average person, they are going to utilize it. The productive capability of those devices doesn't shrink just because it's in the hands of a poor person. I think that what we're seeing with regard to video production on YouTube is a perfect example of this. And pretty soon, we're going to be seeing people producing things, hard things, things you can hold in your hand and use out there in the wild. And they're going to be accepting nothing but cryptocurrencies in exchange for these items. And they're not going to be reporting that income to the IRS. Anyway, let's go ahead and throw back down with some music. I kind of held off on that a little bit because I thought it was necessary. And I want to get into some Vola here. I love this album, and this song is cool. So here it is, In Mazes, here on Coin Metal. And that was Clarity Through Deprivation by Suffocation.